So the Cal Cultural Fund, I've been looking after that since the end of 2008. Of the money that Cal collects for our membership, 1.5% our constitution allows our board to set aside for what's known as the Cultural Fund. It supports a whole lot of different, very diverse things, but its primary aim is to encourage and provide practical assistance to Australia's creators working in the visual arts and publishing fields. The priority area for funding is supporting innovation in the Australian creative industries to develop local and foreign markets for Australian works. That's very broad, as you can see. And that 1.5%, I think it's really important to remember, these are licence fees that have been collected for authors, artists and publishers, and it is something that is taken out of those funds and put into this centralised pot for use out. So it's from our members, and our members liked it enough that last year at our AGM they voted to increase the Cultural Fund allocation from 1% to 1.5%. So it's now roughly $2.25 million a year. For the main Cal Cultural Fund, which is open really to organisations and institutions, there are 3 or 4 funding rounds per year, and they're advertised on Cal's website. They're run sort of at the discretion of the Cultural Fund Committee, which is a subcommittee of Cal's board. And how often we run them sometimes has to do with what have we done in previous rounds, where is the fund sitting. But it's at least 3 times a year and probably at most 4 times a year, and I'm expecting the next round will be, after the June one next week, will be September. For larger projects, they're usually for something that will have an industry-wide benefit. They're not there to support the commercial costs of running a business, but more for doing things outside of what an organisation might ordinarily do. And it's particularly good to see that there is some sort of return back to creators in whatever that project might be. Applications, please, no more than 5 pages. We'd like plain English too. We encourage it. Once applications have been received and gone through, there are meetings of Cal's Cultural Fund Committee, and the Cultural Fund Committee makes recommendations to the Cal board. And in the time I've been running the Cultural Fund Committee, running the Cultural Fund, not the Cultural Fund Committee, they run me, all of their recommendations have been accepted by the board. You might be interested to know that the Cultural Fund Committee is made up of authors, publishers and an independent director on our board. There's 6 of them, one of them sitting with us here today, Libby Gleeson, the author. The other part of Cal's Cultural Fund is a Creative Industries Career Fund, and this is for individuals. The next one closes Friday, 15 July, and it's particularly aimed at individuals working in the publishing and visual arts industries, at them doing something that will extend their professional skills and help them in their career. The last round we've supported somebody to go to the Yale Publishing course over at Yale University, an artist to undertake a master's studio class over in, I think it's Iceland, but there are all sorts of different things, down to very local things of I want to go to a CAE and do an editorship course. I'm working on a journal as an editor, but I think that sort of course might help me. Applications for the Creative Industries Career Fund should be no more than 3 pages. And that's particularly important because the number of applications to that round has gone up to something like 80 a round. And we have 3 assessors who go through those applications. And they have limited time and limited patience. And people who think, oh no, I'll send in my 30-page glossy application, I don't think it does you any favours. Funding allocations for this round are made by 3 independent assessors. At the moment, they are the artist Margaret Ackland, the publishing representatives Melanie Austell, who worked at Text and then at UWA Publishing, and the author representative is the head of the Australian Society of Authors, Angelo Loukakis. For both the main Cal Cultural Fund and the Creative Industries Career Fund, as the people from AusCo said, budget's very important. Make it very clear what you are asking for money for. And also make it very clear exactly how much you're asking for. Sometimes it is very hard to decipher that from some of the applications that come in, and it should be one of the very first things you have. The budget is something that our committee pays a lot of attention to, and they like to know that money is going back to creators. They like to know that a majority of an organisation's application is not for administrative overheads, but for other things that people are doing with the project. I'll race through these because I know time is tight. These are just examples of the sort of diversity of things that are supported by the Cultural Fund. Magabala Books, we've supported them to do a number of things. This particular one here was workshops for Indigenous artists from Western Australia, particularly from the desert, to learn how to do book illustrations so that they could be employed by book publishers as illustrators. The Writer in Residence program at UTS saw Frank Morehouse and then Les Murray in residence at the UTS, available to the students for mentoring, talking to the teachers in the professional writing department, and also giving public lectures so that the community benefited by their time in residence. The May Gibbs Children's Trust Creative Residential Fellowships gives writers time to actually get away from their families, sit down and focus on their writing or the research towards their writing. ELIT, I think I saw Stephen here, hello. That's a primary English teaching association, and we help them with Literature Live, giving them finance so that they could look at how to use video conferencing and digital technologies in classrooms with authors so that author workshops could be run to more areas than just where Sydney-based authors might be. And that's been very successful. We've had a follow-up round from ELIT and also from some of the featured authors who've put in a separate application that's got funding. The Pen Voices was the Pen lecture series. Of course, Pen is something pretty close to Cal's heart, being into freedom of expression. And we sponsored the program of lectures, and then that is going to be put into an anthology that Alan and Unwin will publish. The Ned Kelly Awards celebrate crime writing, and we allowed, our finance allowed them to run, to offer a monetary prize to the winner of this Ned Kelly Award, as well as design a really cool poster for their project. Dead Bones on the Road is one of the perennial favourites of the CAL board and members who hear about it. An author came to us with an idea, along with people from the Bathurst Minerals and Fossils Museum, and said there's a real problem with boys from remote New South Wales and regional New South Wales. There's a real problem with literacy, and these boys just not engaging with writing, reading, those things. And they said, we've got a pretty cool idea. We think that some of the holdings of this museum, if we took them round to boys or now show them online, that we could get boys interested in writing. And it's really worked, and we have provided further funding to this project, which is, I think, a really terrific one. The APA, we've funded the exhibition of children's book illustrations in Bologna. That is a major children's book fair in the world, and we hope that this will lead to even greater appreciation and sales of Australian children's books. Griffin Theatre Playwrights Residency, we provided funding for young, well not young, emerging playwrights to have time to sit with a theatre, talk to the directors, talk to the actors and work on their script in a way that many playwrights can't, and they're not often engaged in that very active way with theatres. And it was really nice actually to see one of the residents, Lachlan Philippot, to see his terrific play on there, staged in full just a few weeks ago, called Silent Disco. I think it closes next week, and I commend it to everybody and say get there and see it before it finishes. Wordstorm in the Northern Territory, we've supported the Writers' Festival, and that was to allow writers from around Australia to attend that Writers' Festival in the top end. And for an individual, we supported Emily Zoe Baker through the Creative Industries Career Fund to go to the Berlin International Literature Festival. And as she is very keen to say to people and so enthusiastically says, she won that international slam that she attended, first Australian to go, first Australian to win, so that was great.